8th of the Select Board, going to need a motion to go into executive session for, under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to conduct collective bargaining sessions, and also under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Those will be the only two items to discuss. I need a motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson? Yes. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. We'll be returning as close to 6:30 as possible. Call to order the meeting of the Select Board of July 29th, 2024. Please rise. We salute the flag. Please remain standing afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we offer a moment of silence for our service personnel, both here and abroad, and both past and present. Okay, please be seated. We are live, no remote. All votes will be done by voice unless the board chooses to do a roll call vote. Warrants have been signed. We have no appointments. Under new business, tree committee bylaw presentation.
Yes. So here this evening, we have Ann Parsons and Andrea Langhauser with Dartmouth's Tree Committee. They have a presentation that they want to present to the board this evening, and I'll turn it over to Ann.
Thank you for listening to us, and good to be back. I'm going to do sort of an intro, and tonight we just wanted to share a draft of a tree bylaw, which is really a work in progress at this point, and introduce important concepts within. Eventually, if the bylaw is to be adopted, we'll need town council, obviously, to sort out some things. But next slide. So I want to thank my subcommittee for putting this together. There are three people, Vic's here, Andrea, and Susan McLaren. Thank you.
If you want to actually move over to that podium just so you can flip through it yourself, that might be a...
Brooke's
No
doing
problem.
a great job over there.
One finger.
So I want to thank the subcommittee because they've been working on this now for over a year and a half, about. It's just a draft, so we've got a ways to go, but background. Who is the Dartmouth Tree Committee? I think you all know at this point. It's a 5-member committee, and we also have 6 advisors. And our tree warden is Tim Barber over there. Why was it formed? It began because we became so aware of the health of street trees, especially in town, and how they're suffering for many different reasons. And there is a loss of tree canopy. We haven't pinned down how much loss there has been, but there are many reasons for that loss. There's the mission statement to promote protection, planting, and care of trees and forests, as well as to raise awareness of the many benefits that trees have for our community. Whoops.
Just down below, the little arrow.
You got it.
So why a tree bylaw? These days, more than ever, there's compelling reasons for a tree bylaw. And there's so many different benefits. Really, there is an existing law in Massachusetts, MGL Chapter 87, which you'll hear more about. But our tree bylaw will expand upon certain measures within that Chapter 87. Reasons for a bylaw. We really are experiencing climate change. A bylaw can improve the number of trees and all the things underneath: stormwater runoff, enhanced property values, oxygen production, aesthetic enhancement, all of that down below too. I think everybody knows why you need a tree bylaw. It's to create a better environment, basically for trees, and to educate the town too, as well, for the reason for trees. So I'm handing it over to Andrea for the following slides. Thank you.
Thank you for having us tonight.
try to be quick because although it is air-conditioned in here, probably other places to go to. So I'm not an appointed tree committee member. I'm a volunteer with the bylaw subcommittee, as is Dr. Vic Malley and Susan McLaren, who you did appoint to the tree committee. As you know, I have over 30 years' experience in environmental planning, state and local levels. This is just something I'm doing for fun. There's a lot of things that the tree committee is talking about doing in terms of expanding public awareness and planting new trees in town. But we thought the tree bylaw would complement the work of the tree committee, as well as the zoning bylaws that planning board is using, and what the tree warden is already doing under Chapter 87. One of the most important things we'd like to establish with this tree bylaw is to create a dedicated tree fund where monies can go directly into a line item for the care and protection of trees and management of trees. So presently, the tree warden is working under Mass General Law 87, which our tree warden is Tim Barber, the DPW director, and he's responsible for managing all shade trees within the public way. A public shade tree is defined as all trees within the public way, and as you know, the pavement is within a legal piece of land, so there's always a little bit, sometimes more or less, of land owned by the town on the side of the road. A setback tree under the general law is a tree that was planted by the town or the utility with the town's approval up to 20 feet back from the public way, and the state law requires there be some owner approval of that planting, and then it gets all the protections of a public shade tree. Permits are granted by the tree warden, and if a hearing is needed, the Board of Public Works to cut, trim, remove a shade tree, and those exceptions would be pest infestation, which you have to deal with quickly, hazards that are determined by the tree warden. So I talked about the shade tree hearing by the Board of Public Works. Utilities can't possibly do hearings all the time, so they have an annual vegetation plan that's reviewed and approved by the tree warden with rather than individual hearings. There is a state fine for removing trees without a permit. It's $500 per tree. That slip-up suggests what I think of it. Okay, so we in the subcommittee, we have already spoken in the last year to the town planner, the tree warden, the former town administrator. We went and reviewed all the municipalities in the state that we could find that had some sort of tree protections, and so we came up with not our ideal recommendations, but what we think might be a reasonable first bylaw for the town of Dartmouth. One is to expand the definition of a shade tree. Right now it says all trees within a public way or bordering a public way. Well, all trees can be little saplings, all trees. So we wanted some clarification of what that is, and we would say any tree that has any part of the trunk within the public way, and then we suggest that we add trees of a certain size, some of the more substantial trees, whose canopy overhangs the road pavement, not the public way. And we suggest 6 inches at the diameter at breast height. So that's a reasonably good-sized tree, and it's possible that, depending on the type of tree, the canopy might actually shade the pavement. Setback trees already have the protection of Mass General Law 87. We presently don't have, I don't think, any idea of which trees are planted by the town and the utilities and which trees are owned by the current landowners, because this is 20 feet onto private property. What we're suggesting might be more of a future issue, which is that we clarify that trees planted with the tree warden's authorization and the owner's permission within 20 feet of the right-of-way have that same protection. But we clarify it's those that we know about. So probably it's those in the future. That means that any alterations to those setback trees would require a tree warden. What we're suggesting here is that if the town or the utility used public funds, if the town used public funds, if the public utility used their funds, then maybe we should treat that tree as a public resource. The activities requiring a tree permit. Right now, it's cutting, trimming, removal of shade trees, and that requires some kind of written approval of the tree warden, might also require a hearing. We obviously want to continue that and then include those new setback trees that we know have were planted with the tree warden's approval. We also wanted to clarify that if you plant a tree, if a landowner wants to plant a tree into the public way or the setback area, and they come to the town, that we should also include those trees as being reviewed by the tree warden. New to this proposal, what is not in 87, is that we think that there are times when you're engaging in major construction, when maybe those trees that are a public resource should be reviewed for really most importantly for any kind of best management practices to protect the tree during construction. And we're talking about those trees, again, just those trees along the public way and the new setback trees. And we've spoken to other towns. Our former building commissioner brought us to the town of Brookline for really good management practices for that. We recognize that that's a new issue, and we do have that trigger of the building permit also is electronic, so we can set up electronically when something goes to the tree warden for review. We just need to address that there's information in the application that allows him to actually do a review. The existing exemptions, obviously, on pest infestation and hazardous trees would certainly remain. So what kind of conditions? Right now, if a person asks to remove a tree, it's reviewed, it's discussed, and it either is allowed or not allowed, and that's the end of it. What we would highly recommend and hope that you agree is that some form of mitigation be granted here, that either if a tree is removed, that a tree or a few trees be replanted in its stead, or if the tree warden looks at the property and says there's no room for that, that possibly a contribution go into the tree fund for trees to be purchased and planted in another location. So this concept of if you cut it down, you should replace it. There's a whole range of how and how much, but that concept we'd like to have incorporated. Obviously, if you replant there's already a list of recommended tree species that's on the Dartmouth Tree Committee website, and if you were to use those trees, there could be some sort of benefit given to the town or to the landowner or the town. And there should be protections. My battery is not running low because I am plugged in. Aren't I? Apparently I'm not plugged in. This is the cable. Okay, well, you know, I said I was going to be quick, so we'll go as long as we can. So, tree fund. We're getting only positive responses from, that's the cable. We're only getting positive responses from folks, that's another cable, on a tree fund, which is just, if you're gonna fine a person for doing bad things, relative to tree management and care, then why not put it into a fund so that it can be used for better management care elsewhere? Private donations have been, Ann's been doing a terrific job getting private donations in. It'd be great if they went there as well. And there's issues around here as to how to authorize expenditures and process, which we'd look to you for some guidance on. Local fines. $500 for a tree if you, no matter how many trees there are, no matter how flagrant. We're suggesting that if you can also have local fines when you violate the local bylaw, and that with each tree being a separate violation. And what's often done, here in town, there is the ability to, the town has given different committees and staff the ability to use non-criminal disposition. It's there in both the state law and the local general bylaw. We think that should be used for local funds, and as is often used in enforcement, each day after notification of the violation is a separate violation. And if it's your first offense, it's a low fine, but you can increase it as people have multiple offenses. But generally, we're recommending it be not a high fine, because what we want them to do is replant a tree through a permit. That's what we want. We want another tree. But, there should be a local fine. So there's a lot here, and I did it in concept form instead of with draft language, because how we draft it really depends on what we want to say. And so we wanted to get your feedback as to whether or not we should continue to go forward. We're going to go to the planning board itself. With this, we're going to go back to the Board of Public Works, but only if we're getting a general sense that we're on the right track. And ultimately, the tree committee doesn't have a budget. So, with your support, we would want town council's review of this once we have draft language. So, questions?
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Well, done a heck of a job.
Yeah.
Mr. Gentleman.
I think that this committee has worked faster and quicker and more diligence than any I've ever seen. And Sean, you've been here longer than I have, but it's amazing work, and it's important now more than ever. It's nice to sit under a shaded tree in weather like this today and see the value of the tree for sure.
10 degrees difference.
Yep. And I also, on a personal basis, I think that the town of Dartmouth is in debt to Andrea's work when it comes to the environment. We've worked a lot with water and water quality, and now with trees. And you come from that expertise, and you're offering it to our town is really a great gift. And from a personal basis, I say thank you very much for that.
This is what I like to do with my time.
Anyone else?
Oh,
You want to get on the microphone? Sorry, Sean.
No, please.
I think one of the most exciting things is that Mr. Carrera, am I pronouncing his name right?
Barry?
Oh, there you are. You've spoken to me about creating a permanent bottom line in the budget for trees. And I'm going to be approaching you in September, October about that. I think that's really exciting to separate trees out from everything else and get that fund going. So I just, for me, that's super exciting, a place for us to spring forward from. Thank you for your encouragement.
I would say at this point in time, I would continue to do what you need to do to get this, to get the language. And as far as drafting the language, I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is the mindset of the public so that the bylaw isn't onerous. You know, you stated several times that you want to encourage participation. You know, and I think we want the language of that bylaw to really encourage participation and not to make it, you know, make it worded enough to encourage the participation, but also to notify those that wish to go against the grain that, yeah, we're still not going to, you know, we're not going to be nice about it. You know what I mean? That if you're going to remove trees willy-nilly, you know, then expect to be, you know, dealt with accordingly. And I think that's, I think one of the things that, and it doesn't make a difference whether it's Dartmouth or it's East Bohunk, Indiana, or somewhere, you know, a person's property is, you know, they want to do what they want to do and they don't want over-government regulations. But something like this, you know, is necessary. And we all know what the genesis of this came from. You know, somebody cutting down, you know, large, old trees, you know, in an area where they should not have. So, and I think that's the most important part, is at least starting off with the language that way, and how future, you know, board members, you know, deal with it going afterwards. That's entirely a different subject. But at least to say that we, you know, starting at a certain point is very important. So I would continue to do what, you know, to get the bylaw language going, get it to town council, you know, as soon as possible. The quicker the better, because I mean, you're looking at, you know, the final warrant has to be done by September 23rd. So really, if you can get the language to town council by the end of August, you know, that gives them 3 weeks to review it.
I appreciate that. That means we can put in kind of a placeholder
Yeah.
on August 2nd.
You can always put a placeholder in for a town meeting article. It's whether or not, you know, the article comes up, and then it can be, once it's here, if it's ready to go, you know, we put it in, and if it's not, we'll pull it. So.
Appreciate
And
that extra
and as
time.
far as having a separate line item for, you know, for this, yeah, because if you're gonna find somebody, you know, then let that fine go to what you want, ultimately, the purpose you want it for, you know, so.
Two comments. First, I think it's a great idea that you've gone to other towns, because this being new, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel where it's been done and done well and accepted, or not do it because it wasn't well accepted. The other comment I had, my own clarification, under fines, it reads, establish a low dollar amount to encourage compliance. I would think that a high dollar amount would encourage compliance, because the fear of paying too much money. Did I miss something here?
No, it's two different philosophies.
Okay.
But we are saying that every tree and every day after notification is a separate violation. So a $100 fee, if he doesn't, you know, if the landowner, he or she doesn't come forward for a week, that $100 fee becomes $700 just because he waited.
Okay.
Versus $500 a day, you know, $1,000, that's, you know, 10 days, it's, you know, $1,000 versus, you know, 5,000.
In my experience, and it's my professional experience that when you have a high fine, you get into a negotiation. They don't want to pay the fine.
Right.
And it's like, if you keep the fine low, what you're doing is encouraging them to get into the process so the public has a chance to respond to it. And we get the tree.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific, great. Anybody else?
Andrea, you mentioned that there were donations already received. How much are you up to so far?
Ann, you got to go to the mic.
Last year, just this time, we did a fundraiser and received a little over 10,000, closer to 11,000. We spent 8,000 next door for the trees that we're watering in front of middle school. We're spending 2,000 more here at Town Hall to put in 2 trees in the fall. And we're about to do our annual fundraiser now. 10,000, we had 2 grants. That included 2 grants. We hope to get the same over again.
And for those at home, the fundraiser that you're doing is when and how?
It's a letter that goes out to a couple of hundred people. We also do it via our Facebook page and MailChimp. Our whole planting approach, we have a theme called Trees Are Cool. And that's our whole planting campaign. Trees are cool, global warming and all of that. We're slowly, having planted trees, we're learning as we go along that to plant trees, you need to water trees. We had to start an adopt-a-tree watering system next door. We started that 2 weeks ago because the trees were really getting thirsty, and we can't afford to have Mr. Bourne Knowles come by with his watering truck. That's $150 each time, or excuse me, $125, but still. So we've started an adopt-a-tree program. What we're going to do, move that into adopt-a-tree for residents to say, I want to adopt a tree. So they adopt the tree and they put it on their own property and care for it as soon as it's planted. And that way, quite frankly, we're avoiding the watering problem of a new tree. It's really, you lose a lot of trees. You see them along Dartmouth Street. The town couldn't take care of some of those trees. They've gone by. So we're starting Adopt a Tree. What I'm getting back to is a fundraiser that's going to be going out in the next month is going to be talking about this Adopt a Tree program, how we've started it in front of middle school. We're going to be turning it around and making trees available. We hope to make them available free, some trees free, in areas in town where what you call heat islands, for people who don't have a tree in their front lawn. How terrific that would be to give them a free tree. We're also going to be asking them to pay for trees, but a minimal amount like 100 and 150, which New Bedford does. And so I think that's really exciting. I think people got more into planting trees than ever this spring because the trees were so beautiful, the way they blossomed and leafed because of all the rain. So there's a lot of momentum at the moment for a lot.
Yeah, I'd suggest if you can get some information about that to the administration, maybe we could use Engage Dartmouth website
Magnolia.
for promotion.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. All right, anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much for
Thanks
that
for the work you do.
presentation, and we look forward to seeing what the product will be.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Barber.
The tree warden. Prison warden?
Good evening, Tim Barber, Director of Public Works and Tree Warden. I, definitely support the tree bylaw. The tree committee has done a tremendous amount of work in a short amount of time putting this together, and and we definitely need a fund. So I think that a tree fund is definitely a great way to go with replacement of trees, or if you can't replace a tree, then you can donate into a fund, or as well as other donations. I think that's great, and along with fines. And I second, we don't currently have an operational line item for tree work or tree maintenance or a dedicated tree crew, although we do have some equipment for the tree work. So, and I think in the next fiscal year, we'll look at dedicated positions for a tree crew and possibly a line item for some extra tree maintenance as well. All right.
Great work.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, we have the citation for the Dartmouth Community Band for their 50th anniversary. So what we have here is we'll have a citation for the community band. And basically, it says, the Town of Dartmouth, Massachusetts Select Board official citation, be it known that the Dartmouth Select Board hereby extends its congratulations to the Dartmouth Community Band in recognition of 50 years as an organized band showcasing local talent, enhancing events including the Memorial Day Parade, Veterans Day Ceremony, the 4th of July concert, and other community gatherings throughout the band's participation, and be it further known that the Dartmouth Select Board extends its best wishes for continued success. Their anniversary concert will be next Tuesday, July 16th. I'll be there to make this presentation on behalf of the board. The board has signed it, and it's really it's a wonderful thing throughout the years, and they continue to do an outstanding job, and a lot of people do enjoy the participation, but more importantly, they enjoy the product that they put out. So, looking forward to that. Next item on the agenda, we have requests for a stop sign on Crossroads and York Street. And I'm assuming that DPW Director Barber is here, but along with Traffic Safety Officer Canario. So, Steve, you want to come up and start it off since Tim is...
Officer Canario, Safety Officer for the town. I brought a couple of photos there. Those are the images that I submitted with the permit, but I don't believe you get to see them, so I just wanted you to take a look at exactly what we're talking about. I know I've been here a couple times. I'm not a super fan of signs. I'm going to make that clear. I think there is a such thing as sign pollution, and there can be way too many signs that just distract people. But if it's for public safety, I'm 100% for it. York Street, at the end of York Street, at Crossroad, there was always woods across the way. When you knew you were at the end of the street, there was no confusion. You knew you had to stop or you were going to be into one of the protected trees. Now with the new development across the way, it clearly looks like you could just drive straight across that intersection. And that neighborhood is quite often used by UMass students that aren't familiar with the area. So placing a stop sign there, I think, would be a big safety issue for mostly students cutting through there. Due to the traffic volume, the visibility, and the speeds associated with Crossroad, it does meet the criteria in the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, so it is within our checklist for the state for being a proper stop sign.
Is there any concern regarding the distance between the current lights at Route 6 and the proposed location of the stop sign being too close?
Well, the stop sign is going to be on York Street, not Crossroad.
Right, so
Crossroad will travel free as it does now. It's just so someone from the view I showed in
we're only looking for a two-way or
one sign at the top of York Street.
Okay. Is the development installing?
I don't see one there. They should. We had this conversation briefly. I did look at that street we discussed. Unfortunately, that's clearly into the jurisdiction of New Bedford. We have no say on that end of that intersection's in New Bedford on Brownell that we had spoke about. I feel we do have, I looked into it a little bit, put a lot of thought into it, talked to some of the other people that work in traffic with me. I feel we do have the authority to put a stop sign up at that development, even though it's coming out of a private way. I don't feel it's any different than lights coming out of the mall. The mall's private. The state put lights there. Why? To protect the public on the public way. The stop sign there would be to protect the public from the public way if they were to drive out of that recklessly or distracted or... but at this time, I'm looking at the traffic from York Street. That's a through street. It's not a dead end. That new development is a it's a parking lot.
Right.
Anyone goes in there knows where they came from. I would hope that they know returning that they came off a main road. But York Street is a cut-through neighborhood. My big concern is just people using it as a shortcut to UMass and seeing that and just driving straight across, and we have could have a significant accident.
Is all the permitting done for that site complete? Because I'm just wondering if we could contact the owners and make sure that they put some kind of traffic control on their end too. Because doing it on one side does make sense, but doing it on both sides makes even more sense.
Yeah, I believe all the permitting's complete. Their building's constructed, most of the site work's complete, so I think they're towards the finish line. But we can definitely contact, the developer. Typically, a driveway is not allowed to be constructed within 55 feet of an intersection, which creates this problem. And this is the reason why you don't want to construct a driveway within that
Right.
setback.
Okay. Okay. Board members, any questions? All right, what's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Okay. Right ahead, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, we have a resignation from Patty Swearenduck on actually two of them. From Patty on the Waterways Management Commission and the Harbor Management Plan Implementation Committee. I would think if we are going to accept her resignation, that we do so with regret, and that we send her some type of a letter thanking her for her services.
Patty
Both
has
committee.
put an enormous amount of time. Her commitment to being responsible member of these committees is outstanding. It's unfortunate she needs to resign, but I think that we need to acknowledge her, the work she's done, and the quality of the work she's done.
Is that a form of a motion?
It is.
Thank you. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Tattlebaum, seconded by Mr. Mickelson to accept Ms. Swearenduck's resignation from both committees and to forward a letter to her thanking her for her service and wishing her the best in the future. All right, on the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Next, we have the resignation of Daniel Cook from the Dartmouth Tree Committee. All right. Overwhelming schedule, all right. All right, same thing with Mr. Cook. Accept it with regret and send him a letter thanking him for his service to the committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Okay. Next item, we have a line item transfer for FY '24. The amount requested is $70,000. It'll be transferred to the medical payroll tax, and it'll be transferred from the group insurance. Mr. Carrero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So we had a series of transfers. This was one that was left out, that has to be done by the 15th of July. And this is the result of a larger than expected payroll for the school. As you know, we pay them one lump sum for the employees they paid over the summer. So we're asking for a transfer of $70,000 from the group insurance account for the board to approve, and then we'll have our finance committee approve it
Okay.
at this Thursday's meeting.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to allow the transfer of $70,000 for Medicare payroll tax, is that correct?
Yep. To the group insurance.
To group insurance numbers are on a,
From the group
From
insurance.
group insurance to Medicare
To
payroll
medical
tax.
payroll.
we've got a balance from which the transfer, so,
Correct.
right? All right.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. All right, next item on the agenda, we have the board and committee appointments. We have the Board of Appeals, Walter Ferry and Robert Gardner. We have a letter from Mr. Maderas giving us a good explanation as to their attendance, and what's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Mr. Towner.
I think that we asked for these comments, and I think that it's pretty clear that the chair, Attorney Maderas, is fighting for the right to keep these two fellows on the board, and I'm sure going forward, he'll hold them to the feet to the fire to attend the meetings on an as-needed basis, and I think based on his passionate support of these two members, I would support and make a motion to accept them.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Tattlebaum, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, unanimous. All right, that takes care of new business. Interim town administrator update. We will be meeting, we are scheduled to meet on the 29th. We are moving that up to the 22nd. Melanie Perry said that she would have the material out to the board members. I asked the board members, look at that material, reply to Melanie specifically, so that we can get what we need to discuss for the 22nd. Will be the Wednesday before. Make sure you reply to her before that, so that way we can make sure that we have everything on for the agenda to discuss what we need to do on the 22nd.
That would include all three proposals that we are considering.
This is the RFP to send out for proposals. We may end up having more proposals.
Okay, but will we be discussing the three we have on
No,
board?
because we're going out for proposals. And then once we get them in, then that's what we'll discuss, whatever we get back.
And the time frame again, they, when these proposals will last?
Well, as soon as we approve it, it'll go out, and then we should expect it probably within, at least, to discuss the proposals received, probably within at least 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks afterwards.
3 weeks after the 22nd, you're saying? Is that it?
Well, hopefully, yeah, it depends upon what time we give the deadline, what time we deadline.
You know my
to submit the
feeling, I want to
proposal.
get going on
All right,
this.
we want to get going, so.
Just one topic, because Melanie did ask me about this. So for the next meeting, as part of that draft scope, it will also have a tentative timeline as well. So we can, so you'll see when it goes out for advertising, how long we're giving till we get responses back, and then that'll be based on when the select board is meeting. So it could be amended at the board's discretion.
Okay. Okay. Anything else further?
Couple updates on our end.
Yep.
So earlier today, the Council on Aging held its third master plan roundtable discussion. Dave and Heidi both participated as well on the call, so that was really great. There was some really good concepts put forward, and we look forward to receiving the final report in the coming weeks. So we had a good turnout, both virtually as well as in person over at the COA. Second is the new boards and commissions database is officially online. So this allows the public the ability to see board member information, vacancies, and apply in the online portal. So previously this was an access database that was only viewable by our staff. So over time, there's additional functionality that will allow the public more information at their fingertips from the convenience of their homes. So this was a collaboration between the town clerk's office, our systems analyst, and administrative assistant, Melanie Perry, and they did a great job, so shout out to them on that. The last update is now that we are officially in FY25, we believe it's a good time to talk about the strategic goals of the board during this transition period. We recognize that there's some initiatives and actions the board may want to hold off on until a permanent town administrator is appointed. With that said, we also understand there's priorities such as water quality, that the board may want to act on now and start on. So in consultation with the chair, Gary and I are planning to have a draft list of goals for consideration for the next agenda. So that's going to be based on the feedback that we've received to date in terms of strategic priorities, and any of those items will be up for discussion at that point. Thank you.
Those goals pretty much would be kind of short-term goals based on up until the time we have a full-time administrator, or is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, so this will be short-term goals for this fiscal year. Everything that we do will lay the groundwork for hopefully a permanent town administrator to come in and either work off of or take the next steps with.
Okay. Thank you. Great.
Chris, the online board, or the boards that are online, the information that you're posting online, where is that, and does it have the expirations and everything about the particular seats?
Yes, so the database is going to have its own URL from the town website. So our communications coordinator will be pushing something out this week with an official press release in terms of what is going to be on the site. That website will have the term information for the current membership and the makeup of the different boards. There is a little bit of a lag with regards to the elected seats, just because while our office does the appointed seats, the town clerk's office handles the elected seats. So there is going to be a little bit of a delay on that. So that'll be in the next phase of work. But ultimately, this is hopefully going to be a place where people can see when terms are expiring, see current vacancies, make applications, and really just help us administer the boards and commissions more efficiently.
Good, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything else on the town administrator update?
That's it for us.
Okay.
Just let the board know that I had a preliminary discussion with the superintendent of schools, Dr. Saban McGuire, about the FY26 budget. I know it's a little early, we're just getting into 25. And there was some pretty good discussion on how they are going to approach it in this fiscal year. They're looking at to have regularly updated budget meetings with the committee, with their school committee. And I want to be a vital part of that once we get that rolling. Sure. I think that's a good process to move forward with, keeping everybody informed on what's going on with the budget moving forward into fiscal 26, because we there may be issues with funding and whatnot. So we did have a great discussion moving from 25, and hopefully we can address a lot of these issues into 26.
Okay, terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now concluded town administrator update. Old business, anything under Bliss Corner, Donkachoke?
No new updates.
All right, broadband and Title V, okay. All right, minutes, June 3rd. I reviewed them, they look good to me. Do I have a motion to accept, or?
Motion to accept June 3rd, 2024 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Ms. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. Okay, select board updates. Mr. Tattlebaum, you have any updates?
Couple of things. The long-term planning committee is meeting this Friday. The plan was to meet once town meeting was over. And our goal is going to be to prioritize in detail some of the critical long-term plans. Some of them are pretty obvious, like schools, but others are less obvious, like roads, and come up with a plan to present to this board, and hopefully then take some action for as we get closer to town meeting. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I would like to propose that we consider a discussion at a future meeting regarding the status of the old police station. I think there's issues now that have come up regarding DEP and what's going on there, and I think that there's no reason to let it sit and not have a discussion and then make some decisions, because I think it's it's appropriate. And I'd like to consider bringing that up at another, as soon as a meeting we can.
Okay.
And lastly, I think that this summertime there's not a lot of giant issues on the list each week. And I think it would be a great time to consider some workshops with some of our more important committees, like ZBA, planning, et cetera, and bring in front of us to have a discussion about, short-term goals and future goals. It's a great time to do it because I think there's time to do it on the agendas.
I think if I'm not mistaken, we're scheduled to meet with the planning board on the 22nd, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so,
There may be others, but I think we should,
Maybe we can have more than one at that particular meeting, too.
right, well, I
We've
think at
done that
least with,
before.
right, I know that. But I think with the planning board, I think it's just important to do the planning board because
Yep.
we have to discuss the search for the new town planner too, so.
but maybe we consider that Chris and Gary could maybe look at some of the higher priority issues. We've either haven't seen these committees at all, or it's been a while, and we could, for nothing more than just an open discussion on future short and long-term goals with these committees.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yeah. So I just want to, I'm really concerned about this new town administrator position, and there's no doubt that obviously we're not going to have a town administrator for fall town meeting. So it's incumbent on this board to get involved in the everyday work that the town administrator has done in the past, and the co-town administrators will be doing. We need to support them, and we need to be part of this decision-making and make sure that town meeting goes well and well-organized, and that we are fully aware of everything that we need to do as a select board. That's our responsibility.
I think that's, without being said, I think that's, we know what we have to do.
Right, I want to say it.
Right. Mr. O'Neill, you have anything?
No.
Ms. Brooks?
Having to piggyback on what Mr. Tattlebaum said about workshops, I had created a document few months back about questions that we could ask the board, and I will resend that out to the board to look at as possibilities to frame our work with these other boards and committees.
Great.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Yeah, I have nothing. So, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
You don't have to
adjourn.
write it down, I know what's next.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks?
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. That's it. Good night, everybody.